Let me tell you about Megan. I met Megan about, I keep forgetting, I think I'm in 2020. It's 2019 we first met. And Megan is part of Iversoft. Iversoft is one of the top app development agencies in Canada, and she's an account director there. And she works on the strategy, design, and development of new web platforms, mobile apps, digital tools. And she either collaborates with established brands, new launches. Some of the established brands are Bell, HarperCollins, Ottawa Senators, Ericsson. So that's a fair wide swath. Small nonprofits also are part of that process. Strong advocate for a customer-centric mindset that considers the human experience at the core of any business strategy. That's awesome. Like that. She's also from Nova Scotia. That's pretty cool too. And she's worked in the film and TV industry for 10 years before joining Iversoft. So you and Lisa Musa have some connectivity there. Anyhow, Megan, over to you.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, Margaret Ann and Denny, for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here and share some of my thoughts on the idea of building customer loyalty, and hopefully open up a discussion afterwards. Happy to hold the floor. I know it's something that everyone has an opinion on and has experience in, so it's really be great to have some questions and answers at the end as well. So I will just set up my screen here. Okay, all good. Everyone's seeing a screen, my screen? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so as we all know, my talk is on building customer loyalty. I'm an account director at Iversoft. So before I get started, I want to give you a little bit of context about where I come from. Bernie did an awesome job actually at giving you the quick one, but I'll give you a little bit about our history. And actually, so we started in 2009. So if you think back, I know it's hard to imagine sometimes just last year, let alone 2009, but it was a totally different world, especially technology-wise. Smartphones were not as prevalent and such a core of our everyday lives as they are now. But the phone that was the most popular was BlackBerry, right? So Apple and Android weren't even as big of players at all. However, there was this new product that had just recently launched, was starting to pick up a little of excitement, creating some buzz. It still didn't have near the market share of BlackBerry or this huge impact that we are seeing now, but it was definitely making a splash. So our co-founders, Vicky and Matt, had an idea, and it kind of inspired them to think about this new possibility that the iPhone is creating in this new world with smartphones and being able to do so much more on your phones now. So Vicky was actually a developer at Apple before starting Iversoft. So she thought, well, you know what, there may not be a huge user base in iOS yet, but there's even less actual people who can develop for it, but I can do that. So she started to develop apps with Matt. They started to see this opportunity for businesses to be able to engage with their customers in new and exciting ways. Alongside that, they also started to develop some of the first card games for the iPhone, actually. So we were one of the first solitaire games on the iPhone actually came from Iversoft, is a Canadian success story there. A little known fact about Iversoft. And then so fast forward 11 years, that's where we are now. We still build mobile apps as part of our core business, but we've definitely branched out, as you know, mobile and web, and there's so much more to it now where everything's interconnected. So we can really help businesses in particular, from the strategy to the design, development, launching, and ongoing maintenance and enhancements of projects. We've launched over 200 projects to date and over 10 million downloads for the projects that we've created. As I mentioned before, we, alongside our services side of the business, where we work with businesses to create products for them, we still do have our card slate, so our own IP that we help and maintain and have millions of customers around the world, which help us to also see a different lens in terms of customer loyalty and building a product and being able to evolve on mobile using this user base that we get to interact with every day as well. However, a lot of my presentation and my insights and my experience in my day-to-day really is drawn from working with our customers in terms of the businesses. And as Bernie mentioned, and as you can see here, we do really work with a range of different types of businesses, anyone from the biggest companies in Canada to the federal government to smaller nonprofits, startups where their whole business is an app, and everyone in between. So it's really from working with these clients, and that's really where our success comes from, is make sure that these customers are happy and loyal and want to stay with us and help us grow. That's really been our key to success. So that's where a lot of my examples are going to be drawn from. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit. But before I get into maybe how to build customer loyalty, let's take a step back and consider, why does customer loyalty even matter? Now, I know when we see a lot of business success stories out there, and especially if you look at the local business stories, you'll often see this focus on revenue growth and how much more money have you made this year versus last year, and looking at that final number. But if there's anything I think we can all agree on, is that all revenue is not the same. You need to consider first what you put into it, and then also what you get out of it. So we're talking about these purely objective matters that your accountant know, and you can look at your balance sheet, what are the time and the effort and the money that you put into getting your customers, but then also, and then get out of it in terms of what the revenue is. But then also, if you're like me and you want to work at a place that also feeds your soul and makes you feel good and makes you excited and motivated to get to work and to do good work, I think we also really need to consider what we put in and what we get out in terms of these more subjective matters, like our blood, sweat, and tears, right? This idea of motivation and actually wanting to do work and putting in good work and doing really fun stuff may be harder to quantify on a balance sheet, but its impact is 100% real on terms of our business success. So what we found over the years, that revenue from loyal customers has a lot of really key benefits. And yes, you always want to bring in more customers, but having this core customers who are loyal and continue to come back provides some advantages, such as a lower acquisition cost. You're not going to spend the same amount to get someone to come back necessarily as you will to bring on a whole new customer. This is something we find both in terms of games and actual product, but also in terms of our service business. Often it's really the loyal customers, the ones that you have ongoing relationships with, that provide those positive trust-based relationships that really make work so enjoyable and really provide this positive experience in our day-to-day. And finally, it's often the loyal customers which provide that sustainable continual growth, which actually leads to the business success. So if you look over the course of your lifetime, the customer lifetime value can really add up to be a huge significant part of your business success. Also, if you're in the services business like me, which it seems like a lot of people are, then we all know that referrals are so key to our success and being able to build and to do in a way we're not starting from scratch for every single client. And those referrals are often not coming from someone who just interacted with you once or twice, or you saw them once in your lifetime and that was it. But it's really often from these customers who are working with you every year, or kind of who come to you on it again and again. And those are the people that you provide that key advantage there. I really like this tweet. I think it really sums up a lot of my thoughts on the matter as well, and that it's much easier to turn in a customer to a repeat customer than a non-customer into a customer. So we're looking at what you put into it and what you get out of it. There's that key advantage there. And also, no matter how great you are at marketing, no matter how great your marketing team is, and we have I have some really awesome marketing colleagues, but no matter what they do and how awesome these campaigns are and how great we tell everyone, that we're great and we can solve all their problems, something a customer says is worth that much more. And it's that much more impactful, and people will trust it so much more. So it's really, being able to have those lower customers that we can actually tap into that. At the end of the day, your existing customers are your most qualified leads. So we need to be able to treat them like that and treat them with the same care and attention and excitement that we do for every new lead that comes to us. Okay, so let's say we're all in agreement, right? The customer loyalty is important. Little matter, okay, how, right? So what I'm going to go into is talk about 3 mantras or ways of thinking, grounding thoughts that I find helpful in both our big picture strategy thinking for the company, but also in our day-to-day decisions. We're always having to make decisions in terms of what to do in this matter or not, and having some grounding truths, some mantras to go back to again and again is really helpful with those decisions. So I'm going to talk about number 1, a mantra you can use as your foundation. 1, your purpose. And then finally, your strategy. So first of all, your foundation. And this is one that I'm going to be honest, working in sales and working in customer service, I've always, gravitated with this idea that it's customers first. They're the most important. They are the reason why we exist. If there wasn't customers, we wouldn't exist. But I've actually really come around to my company's point of view, which is really employees first, especially in these times of COVID. I think if there's anything that it's helped to show us, is that before you can take care of others, or before you can ask your employees to take care of others, you need to take care of yourselves. Ultimately, to be able to get loyal customers and people who are excited to engage with your company and come back again and again, it's not going to be a one-man show. I can do the best job in the world, and people can love me, but if the rest of my colleagues and my employees are not giving them that same experience, then it's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to have that same impact. So really what we want to do is we want to empower all employees to feel like they're taking care of themselves so that they can take care of other people. Because as we've all found this year, especially, we can only do our best work when we feel like we are taken care of, like we have our needs met. And then we can start to be motivated and start to want to do our best and actually do the best work. These are a few the quotes actually from my colleagues, and I swear they are all completely true and honest and not forced. But we have this tradition where when someone new starts at the company, then they can ask everyone a question and everyone has to answer. So when we were in an office, we would all meet in the kitchen, we would get Timbits and we would go around the circle and you would all have to answer the question. And it was just a fun way for the new person to be able to get to know everybody. And also for us to slowly get to know each other a little bit more as well, because we'd often use that opportunity to find out about things that we didn't know about our colleagues who we've been working with for years. But recently somebody asked, what is your favorite part of your office culture? And these are just some of the answers that people answered. And I think what I really want to highlight with this is the idea that my job in sales and in customer service is made a million times easier by the fact that the other employees, my colleagues who I rely on to provide the services as well for our customers, I feel like their needs matter and that them as people matter, and that is a core concern of the company. One example of this that we've done actually since COVID is we switched to an optional 4-day week. So with the idea of like a complete trust of the employees, you have a certain amount of hours, you have a certain amount of tasks that you need to do every week, knowing that some people work longer hours, especially during COVID, when you don't have that commute time. We often have a lot of people without families, so it's easier to work longer hours during the week. And then if you get to the end of the Thursday and you've already put in all your hours for the week, then you can take the Friday off. If you want to just keep it to a regular 5-day week, then that works too. But it just ultimately comes down to empowering people to pick the schedule that works for them. As long as you get your job done, as long as you know what your core responsibilities are, then we trust you to be able to do what you need to do and to manage the kind of work-life balance that makes sense for you. So often people are going for walks during the day or they're doing errands and stuff, and it just helps them to be able to balance that. One small but really impactful thing that we do as well, which I think a lot of people can do, especially if you have a team for your company, is we created this kudos Slack channel. So it's just this a regular Slack channel where you can recognize somebody if they did something that helped you or helped a customer, if you recognize someone who went above and beyond. And what's really cool about this is that we're not a huge company. We're about 35 people. But there's usually a post every day and often multiple a day. And it's just this really easy and small habit to be able to recognize people and to be able to say, like, you are seen. And not only did I see you, but I want everyone in the company to see it as well. And I think it helps us to feel recognized and really be motivated to do your best work. Because as we know, we do our best work when we are appreciated. Plus, it's just kind of nice to be around kindness, right? And it inspires us all to have kindness as our core. So after we have the foundation, you have really happy employees that are ready to do their best work and to actually engage with your customers and do what they can do to help your customers. Let's talk a little bit about your purpose. So one way to create a hurdle to customer loyalty right off the bat is to think your purpose, your raison d'etre, is to provide a particular product or service. I'm here to say no, that is not true. What your purpose is, especially if you want to have a customer-centric approach, is to make your customer's life better. Obviously, for your product or service, we got to have some limitations there, right? But I think what this helps to do, and when you just have this little slight way of thinking that's a little bit different, is it helps to take away this idea that we're providing a product or service as an economic transaction. Because we all know that we make decisions not based on what makes economic rational sense, but we make decisions based on how we feel. So we need to, as businesses, recognize that and tap into that and make sure that how the customer is feeling and how we are making an impact on their life is at the core of our purpose in the services that we offer. If we want to look at an example, let's look at apps actually in games. I'm wondering how many people here have an app or something that they've downloaded, but they haven't even got through the sign up process. I would guess that there's a few, right? And you're not alone, because it's true that 50% of apps are abandoned after one use. So as much as any of us in customer service or in companies, we want to build this customer loyalty, but maybe we see long-term, when we build apps and we build digital products, we don't have that luxury of lots of time to win people over and to show them our value over time. We got to show it right off the bat. We got to make that impact, make people's lives better right off the bat. So here are some kind of psychological tips from building apps and building games that you guys can use in any of your businesses. Really what we found and what's this proven psychological fact is that if you can create and cultivate immediate short-term success, you have a better chance of long-term retention. So there's this reason why apps that make it really easy to first sign up, to get started and start to do things, the more likely you are to use it. The more there's a barrier right up the beginning, the harder people aren't necessarily going to invest, no matter how awesome your app is, no matter how awesome your product is, and the final product, by the time you get to all those hours of engaging, you're going to be so rewarded. No. Most people aren't going to invest the time to do that. You want to be able to make them succeed right off the bat. When you think of loyalty programs, for example, the quicker you can redeem a reward, actually, the more likely you are to stay. Likely in terms of game app design, we want to make the first few levels easy to help build the habit, first of all, but also to make them feel good. The more you can help your customer feel like a superhero, and the more often you can make them feel like that, the better the relationship will last, and the more you can kind of cultivate this feeling of customer loyalty and the fact that it's not just the product or service that you're offering, but it's really helping them feel good and feel like they have this in control, or they have, their life is better because of the way that they're engaging with you and your product or your service. So again, we want to have customers start and end on a high note. Often what they've found, psychologists, is that what you will remember when you look back in experience is often how it ends, and then also the most intense experience throughout it. So whether it's positive or negative, but you'll often forget all this nitty gritty, the details of the day-to-day, but it's that core, how things end, and really the most intense experience there. So one way to, I think, go about this is to really focus on solving your customers' problems and not yours. I think this sounds obvious, perhaps. It sounds, maybe everyone thinks that they're doing this, but I would argue that it's actually not as intuitive and it's not as natural to a lot of us as we think it is. Often when people come to us and they want to build a product or a service, I would say it's more often than not that they say, this is our idea, this is what we want to do, and it makes sense because if people, when people do it and they engage with us, it will help our business. But you want to flip it the other way and say, well, what do customers want? It may not be your intuitive, it may not be, oh, this is the service, the natural service that I offer, and this is what makes sense for me, but what makes sense for them? What makes sense in their lives? What would make their life easier? What would make their life better? And that's what you want to wrap your product or your service around. The other reason this is really important is that your customers' needs are going to be different in 5 years, in 10 years, in 50 years. So if you're looking for loyalty, if you're looking for an ongoing relationship, you need to be able to adapt to that. And often customers adapt a lot quicker than businesses. So if we're able to think about what customers' problems are and what they are today versus pre-COVID and what they will be in another 3 months, you're able to anticipate those problems and be able to react to it. Otherwise, it's harder to see the holes or the gaps in your services because maybe it's working right now, but you want to be able to see what those problems are and be able to adapt and be able to look in creative ways. Restaurants are a really good example of this in COVID, right? Because they've had to adapt what their core service is to be able to adapt to what customers' realities are, which is that they can't actually, or they may not be uncomfortable going to a physical setting, but they still are able to benefit from what restaurants are able to offer. And then what really matters to customers? I will preach long and hard about the fact that I believe communication is both the easiest and the hardest part of customer relations in building a successful product and service. Often people are focused on this, being able to meet the expectations. Okay, did we meet on time, on budget? They got what they wanted, they got what they said, we did everything we wanted to do, which is cool. And that's, yes, definitely aim for that. That is a key part of being able to deliver customer services. But really the core and the foundation is this communication. You can provide the best, the best service and they got what they want, but if they didn't feel like they were heard, they didn't feel like they were actually a valued customer, they were always wondering what the status is, they always had to kind of go after you and figure that out, then they're going to come out of the experience with kind of not the best impression. And then ultimately the top is the value adds and delight. That's what we all want to aim for, right? That's what really helps to cement you away from your competition. But really, you still need that communication no matter what. I actually I found this on being on the other side as a customer experience recently, where I ordered a coach, and it was an awful experience. And it came late, much later than what they initially said, and it came a little bit damaged. So yeah, that whole middle expectations met was not quite met. But I was reflecting afterwards, and I think what really bothered me the most was the communication. Like if they had made me feel like they understood my frustrations and they were proactive and they knew that I would want an update since the delivery date has arrived and no coach is here. If they can anticipate that, it would have been a totally different customer experience. If they could have, even gone a little bit above and beyond and said, we recognize this is not what you signed up for, and what can we do to help? And, just a little bit of communication, which wouldn't have costed them more, actually, would have made a huge difference in terms of my my desire to recommend or to go back to them another time. And let's be honest, a lot of our expectations for communication now are up here because of apps and because of technology and because of what we get from every other experience, right? Now that we are online and we have mobile devices, we're expecting if we make an order and delivery that we know the exact status, exactly what post office it's at, and at every step of the way. So apps and technology have accustomed us to just having lots of exposure into all the information there. So we need to be able to adapt as businesses to recognize that we have this expectation that we didn't 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But now we want to be able to have this self-serve information and be able to see it. These are a couple of screenshots from the Shopify app, the Shop app, where again, but lots of examples out there, but it's this idea of constantly being proactively and communicating, letting people know the status goes a huge way in that customer experience. Finally, your strategy. So we can spend all day, every day, having our customers front of mind, making them success and making their lives the best. But at the end of the day, if our success is not aligned with that success, then we're not going to be in business long enough to make it matter. So what we want to do on our everyday is make sure that the businesses, the way that we focus, the way that we work on deals, is create these win-win scenarios. So it makes sense for the customer, it makes sense for us, then it'll be more likely to be a symbiotic long-term relationship. This is an example from a game we've built actually, which I think sums it up really well. In that, so anyone who plays mobile games or mobile apps may understand that when you watch a video ad, the developer or the app owner makes a lot more money than if you just see a banner ad. So as an app developer, as a game developer, we want people to watch video ads. That's good for us, that's good for our business. But we don't just want to force it on them because it's good for us. We want to make sure that they also are motivated to watch the video ads, which, you know, if we just gave them the option, hey, watch a video ad, most people will be like, no, thanks, I'm okay, I'm good, right? But if we give them a motivation and incentive so that they win and we win, then it's the scenario that means that it's more likely for them to actually want to and to choose to do it, even if we give them the option. We'll often see this in a lot of apps and businesses where the reason that they've helped to grow is that they've been able to put in terms of into their processes incentives for customers to be able to act in ways that benefit the company as well. So for example, this is an example from Uber where you want a free ride as a customer? Yeah, sure. You share Uber, they want you to share Uber and be able to share that. So you get a free ride because you share and because you do something in the advantage of the company. Likewise, Facebook and lots of social media companies, I mean, they benefit because they can create this incentive that my experience on Facebook is a better experience if all my friends and family are on it too. So I want to invite them on it and I want them to be on it. So they're able to create this experience that's a win-win. The more people I invite, the better experience I have. So to sum up, 3 mantras, which I hope resonate a little bit with you, and maybe you can think in your days ahead, are there ways that I can do to kind of incorporate this and can it help my business? From, first of all, creating a foundation of employees first. And sometimes even if you're a sole owner, maybe that's meaning you first, right? Making sure you're taking care of yourself and your needs and what you need to be able to stay motivated. Number 2, your purpose. Make your customer's life better. If you focus on that and make all your decisions and your tactics and your focuses around that, then you're going to be a lot better set up to succeed. Number 3 is strategy. So in your day-to-day, how do you align your success with your customer's success? So when you succeed, they succeed, and vice versa. And that's it. So there's my contact information too. Happy to connect afterwards if anyone wants to. If you have any thoughts afterwards, or if you have any questions on apps or webs or websites or just in general, I'm happy to connect, but also just happy to open up the floor and to hear some people's thoughts, or if you guys want to have a discussion on building customer loyalty, then let's do it.